everyone, I'm Captain Logan, and welcome to another collection stream. Tonight, we're going to be finally getting into box number 2, of my 10,000-piece comic book collection. I'm going through absolutely everything I own, and it took us 2 streams to get through 2 boxes, although I did a couple of other stacks of odds and ends that were outside of the regular filing system. I've still got some stuff to file at some point, and some of it I might do just kind of hodgepodge like I did some of that other stuff, just for the sake of variety, or maybe I'll get some of it in the collection actually in order as it goes. I'm playing this somewhat haphazard. The point is just to show you everything, and it'll be more or less in order, but I don't have any extra stuff tonight. We're just going to get into the box, although I did get a couple of new things from my dad yesterday, and by new, I mean old things, like pretty old things that I showed on a stream I did earlier today in my car when I was in the parking lot at a convention center for a video game convention I went to. And I already showed that on stream today, so I'm not going to do that tonight. But I got X-Men, I want to say it was number 38, which is now the earliest X-Men issue in my collection. And I got a couple of early issues of Amazing Spider-Man for my dad for my birthday. So thanks a bunch, Dad. That was a really pretty-looking 38. Hey, today, speaking of, I saw a few interesting comics at the show I went to, and it was mostly retro video games. And by the way, like I said earlier today, just the prices on some of that stuff have gone so through the roof. It's a little bit depressing when there's stuff that you're still missing in your collection and you're getting started. I can't even imagine that now. But just when we're talking about physical media, talking about cartridges and even discs, looking at like Sega Saturn, which is like impenetrable right now, Sega CD impenetrable. Really a lot of Sega, just really, really difficult now. And it kind of sucks. I'll get off of video games here in a second, but it's on my mind. It's funny, I'm playing the Blue Spheres theme into the show, and I actually bought this shirt today. Surprisingly, not at the video game convention, but actually at a GameStop. I just randomly ended up, and I don't usually do that, but I was in a parking lot with a GameStop, and I ended up walking in just to see if they had any cool collectible stuff. Sometimes they do, even though I don't like that store. And I found this Blue Spheres shirt, and now I'm thinking, I probably won't do this, but now I'm thinking, like, this should be the work shirt for this show, because it goes with the theme I've been playing in. But anyway, I'm jumping all over the place. I wish that I had collected Sega a lot more hardcore 10 years ago, because at one time I kicked around trying to get a complete Genesis cartridge collection, and I'm not interested in doing that now, just because it's gotten so ridiculous, and it's still typically a little bit cheaper than Super Nintendo, but I would love, if I was going to do that, I'd love to get everything, or at least most everything, in box, because the clamshells for that system really hold up, and they're really pretty, and they look great on a shelf, and they don't tend to get dinged up or messed up. So everything's just so much more expensive now. I can't really penetrate that. I can't really do that. So I do buy Genesis games here and there that I didn't have, that maybe I rented growing up, or things that more recently I have discovered that are really cool, and I kind of want them for my collection, because I do emulate some, of course, with modded Sega Minis and that kind of thing. But anyway, so I got a Tick Genesis cartridge that I was missing in box, and that is not the clamshell. I talked about this earlier today too, but that is a cardboard box, which sucks, but it's in good shape. Anyway, I mentioned all of that to say there were a number of in-box Genesis games that I seriously considered, and I don't have a Sonic & Knuckles. I do have the cart, but not the box, and I need that. But I got to find a really good-looking box, and they were all pretty well dinged up. But I found a New Mutants 98 at that show, and I showed you guys on the first stream that I've got one, and it's in really nice shape. I don't know how good of a grade it would get And I think I maybe even said in that show I've been curious to maybe get it graded. And this guy had a graded one. He had a 9.2, and he had $500 on it. And that's about the going rate for those right now. And I don't know that he'll ever get 500 for that. He told me he loves that cover, he loves that piece, and he just takes it to shows. And if somebody wants to spend that much, he'll part with it. But I don't think he's in any hurry to get rid of it. So that's why he's got it for that much. But 350, 400, I think you can move it pretty quick. And I'm tempted to get it graded, whether I sell it or not. So he told me about bulk grading, that apparently if you send off several, you get a better rate than if you just send off one. And so as we go through this, we should maybe try to decide together which of my issues are most worthy of getting graded. And I think we already saw a couple of them. That famous McFarlane Wolverine Hulk cover is certainly one of them, and maybe Laughing Fish. I showed some of my kind of, more Grail type issues. But anyway, I haven't even looked at comments yet. Let's see if anybody's in here. Hi, Jareth. Good to see you. Hi, Thomas Lowe. Good to see you. Jareth says the video game market prices are so strange. It makes you just want to sell what I have sometimes. Yeah, I totally hear you. And I'm kicking myself really hard because of a couple of things I sold years ago. Because I used to not think about video games as a collecting thing at all. I just had what I liked to play. And now with emulation, I think about it, and because some of that stuff has gotten so much more valuable, I think more like a collector with it. And I'm not a hardcore collector, but I do have more of that mentality than I used to. So I'm kicking myself for selling my Sonic Jam on Saturn so many years ago, because I had lots of ways to play that, and I had a really good collection on the GameCube, which I still have. It is one of the main ways I like to go back and play those games, the Sonic Mega Collection. And I went, I don't need Sonic Jam anymore, and that is a $250 game now. I saw one of those today, and that's still the price that it's commanding. I saw a bunch of Knuckles Chaotix in box, and that's a $150, $200 game, question mark. It's up there though, and I don't have that one in box, but I do have the card. And I bought mine 10 years ago for like, I don't know, $20 maybe. The whole thing has gotten just absolutely absurd. And when you see, like, this was a really good show with lots of vendors, but when you walk around and you see the sheer number of copies. And I realize, it's just all these vendors getting together that have hoarded this stuff. But I mean, and like, some private collectors that are getting rid of certain things. Like, some of them are regular vendors, and some of them are people that just have stuff they're okay with getting rid of. But when you see just how mass produced some of this stuff was, you're reminded when you see that many on a floor of a $200 game. Well, they're out there though. Like, it's not that rare. There's lots of them. Look how many are on this floor. And it makes you question the whole thing. It makes you go, I don't understand why some of these things are worth what they are. Having said that, I always complained that Earthbound is like a $300 game now, and they made tons of them. I don't think I saw one boxed Earthbound today, or even just a cartridge. It's crazy. Anyway, I don't know why I'm talking about video games so much. It's on my brain. That was a really fun show though. It was great just to walk around and see all that stuff again. And I got to play lots of cool pinball machines, and I played some of the new Sterns I hadn't played before. The new Venom machine is wonderful, and it's got a doppelganger toy in it, which makes me very happy that they did that. It's really neat. And last year, because I missed the pinball convention in Frisco, Texas last year, which I usually go to, so I didn't even know what the new Stern was, and nobody's going to care about this, but they put out a John Wick, and I played that a bunch today, and it's really great. Anyway, now onto the comics. When last we met, we were, I thought, finished with Uncanny Avengers, but it spills over into this box, so we're going to look at a few more covers of Rick Remender's Uncanny Avengers. Is everybody ready? We're still in that lengthy Kang arc, all that crazy time travel stuff, so this is number 22, and I think we ended on a weird, like, point now thing, or we were close to that, so I think that's part of why I thought we were done with these, but anyway, so this is that wonderful period too, that Marvel Now period, which was one of the best eras, I think, for Marvel, but this is Havoc fighting Kang there. And then 23. This is a pretty cover. I forgot about this one. I love what that Wolverine suit looks like. I'll try not to get a bunch of glare on these issues. I had my lighting set up differently when I got in here, and it was less glary, but a little bit too dark. So I'm hoping that I split the middle okay, and I'm not washing these covers out too much as I show them to you. If you are new to this series, I mean, I don't know why you're starting on part 3, but I'm simply showing you all my covers. And some of them I will have interesting things to say about. Some of them we will just go through memory lane and go, I remember that, or I don't remember that at all. And sometimes we will look at price charting and see what certain things are worth, but it won't be worth doing until after we get past this series, because none of this stuff is going to be worth much more than cover at this point, I don't think. We're getting close to Axis here. I barely remember that event. This is Uncanny Avengers number 24, the Scarlet Witch cover. I would like to go back and reread all this stuff at some point. It was just a wonderful series. Jareth, it's nice to hear that Kansas still has small cons. Yeah, here in Florida, each one is trying to outdo the other in size and in big celebrities. That happens here too with the big pop culture shows, but we do still occasionally get things like this that started as more collectible, swap meets, and have remained that way. So this particular convention isn't about celebrities at all. They don't hire anybody, and they do have some panels, but it's more just like fans and cosplayers and things like that. And they have a little artist alley, but it's all really small independent people. So it's cool they still do that. Here is Uncanny Avengers number 25. This is a neat stylized cover that looks weirdly kind of like the opening to a James Bond film, but creepier, or maybe like kind of a Steranko thing. Someday I will finally read and review some of Jim Steranko's Nick Fury. I've never done that. Ultron Forever. I don't even remember this. Okay, so this is Uncanny Avengers that comes later. This is Ewing. And I didn't even remember that this got renumbered. I forgot all about this. I only have the first issue. So either it was terrible, or or it just wasn't good enough to keep going with. I don't know. I must have tried it just because I liked the previous series, but I forgot this even happened. What year is this? I'm actually going to crack this open real quick, because I don't remember this at all. This is 15. Okay. Interesting. So this was right before, right after Age of Ultron, I guess? The years all start to mix together for me. Or is that the year that Ultron came out? No, I thought Ultron was what? Is that 14? Somebody help me out. 13 or 14. And then we get we go backwards now to a different era. We're going to get out of Avengers here finally in a little bit. Like I said last time, I'm really surprised by just how much Avengers I actually have, because I was never a giant Avengers guy. But for some reason, I have the first issue in the West Coast Avengers 4-issue limited series from probably the mid-'80s. And got a Hawkeye cover there. Another thing I'm not sure why I kept. I sold a bunch of stuff from this era, though, when I was still on eBay. Hi, Michael. He says, Cap, what is one Batman comic you'd wish DC and Warner Brothers would adapt faithfully? No added BS like Killing Joke. Yeah, you mean like just do Killing Joke straight and don't add crap like they did with that. My top 3 would be Batman versus Predator. Yeah, absolutely. That would be way up there for me too, if it was possible. And of course, Disney having the license now, probably not. My top 3 would be Batman versus Predator, No Man's Land. Age of Ultron is 2015. Okay, I second guessed myself there, Jared. And they were doing that big Ultron event just before that. and it was weird because it was also called Age of Ultron, but the movie, that might be the first thing that did that, like a weird precedent set there where the movie gets that title, but not based on a comic because the comic was coming out. Is weird. But anyway, he says Batman vs. Predator, no Man's Land, and Gotham Central. Well, Batman vs. Predator would be really easy if you had the license to both to do straight off the page, and it's short enough, and you could even do that as a pretty good animated movie. The other two things you're talking about, you would have to truncate in some form, no matter what medium you adapted it to, whether it was movies, and especially movies, but even to a series. You wouldn't even want to do those totally straight. There's some not great stuff in No Man's Land that you could easily just axe out, and Gotham Central is just another pretty lengthy serialized thing. But I'm with you. I love something kind of close with those. But definitely, adapted. And then Avengers West Coast number 52. I have no idea why I own this. I don't even recognize this. I have no idea why this is in here. Some of the things that I kept versus selling was weird. Now, in my old eBay days, and I've kind of talked about this before, it was hard to get rid of singles. And so it's possible that some things I just held on to, I guess, because I didn't really have a lot to put them in. But then usually they would just wind up in a box off to the side, and I would use them for giveaways sometimes on the channel or at shows, or I would just hang on to them and hope I could find a place to put them later. So that might be something I got when I was younger, and I don't even remember it. I'm not sure, but I know I sold a lot of that kind of stuff when I was on eBay. Here's another Avengers West Coast from the 90s, I think. This is, Acts of Vengeance. It was part of that whole thing. Number 55. I will go ahead and look this up. I think that's probably just going to be like a $2 or $3 book, but we haven't looked up anything yet, so let's go ahead and do that, shall we? And sometimes these show up as West Coast Avengers instead of Avengers West Coast, even though that's how it's listed, or that's how it's written on the cover. It's always weird. Yeah, it is. It's West Coast Avengers. Officially, it's West Coast Avengers, but this just says Avengers West Coast. Isn't that odd? Give me a second. Let me set this up so that you guys can see price charting here. Apologies, I didn't have that worked out before I opened the stream. Hope everybody has had a great weekend. And thanks for joining me with this goofy exercise. Oh, hold on. So I gotta open this a little wider. Okay. West Coast Avengers 55. Ungraded 361. Nobody's got a graded one. Nobody cares. So yeah, not worth a ton there. And again, as I've said before, it's not all about monetary value. It's just fun to look it up. Sometimes you find out you're sitting on something you didn't realize you were. Avengers West Coast or West Coast Avengers, depending on how you want to look at it. How do you file it? It goes, well, it goes in the W's regardless because I'm putting all the Avengers together. But if you were alphabetizing by title exclusively, then it would be a little bit more difficult to decide where it went. 56. Great. 55 and 56. Okay, so we've got subsequent issues here. Let's see if we end up with like an unbroken run. Nope. Now we're at 85. I have no idea why I have this. Although this is kind of a fun cover. West Coast Avengers guest starring Spider-Man. He's caught in the death web, folks. Look out. Look out, everybody. It's the death web. Okay, we are kind of overexposing the covers here. So everybody give me just a minute. I'm going to move this light slightly. Hopefully that helps a little bit. And hopefully I don't have to get up and adjust it again. And you don't want us overexposing ourselves. Okay, now we're going to get into a wonderful event. One of the best things Marvel ever did. Now it feels a little bit dark here. Well, we'll see if this works out. I may have to get up one more time, but we'll see here. This is AVX. Yeah, Avengers versus X-Men, which Austin seriously thinks we will see adapted shortly after Secret Wars, or relatively soon after that, as we introduce the X-Men into the MCU. He could be right about that. That's not a thing I had thought about until he brought it up. This is a thing that Dan and I reviewed shortly after it came out, several years ago now, and we both adored this book, and it's got some really, really pretty art. But this is AVX number 0. Yeah, at least the covers look a lot better in this lighting. I'm a little darker than I'm used to being in this light, but that's all right. Okay, so we're going to look this up pretty soon, see if this number 1 is worth anything. Why does this have tape on the back of it? Did I hang this somewhere at some point? I've not, apparently. I don't know what's going on there. So I don't know. I don't usually get really excited about like superheroes fighting superheroes books, but this stuff was just so well written, and it was wonderfully epic. And I did kind of like these head-to-head covers, which now that I'm looking at it, looks very Marvel versus DC. But yeah, these are the art in these were just wonderful, and you had some Romita action here. I forgot about that. Okay, let's look up AVX number 1. Here we go. Michael, still talking about adapting Batman comics better. Hated how Gotham 2014 was just Batman Light. Well, yes, that show was terrible. Jareth, am I the only one who thought the ending of Age of Ultron was setting up a West Coast Avengers film? Yeah, I didn't have that thought, but I can see why you're saying that, with some of that lineup. I thought it was just, here's the next set of Avengers, and it's kind of sad that we never really went that way with it. Because after that, the Avengers movies are just straight up event films where it's all of the superheroes that we've been dealing with, regardless of whether they're really Avengers or not. You never really got like that second team. And so you're finally going to get that. But I mean, it's pretty darn late in the game at this point. We haven't even had Avengers as a thing for 5 years. And in the canon of the universe, it's been even longer. It'll be like a decade since you've had Avengers. Isn't that crazy? Anyway, let me go ahead and look this up real quick. Okay, so AVX. I'm going to assume it's going to look up as Avengers versus X-Men number 1, and we're probably going to have to deal with variant covers and things like that, but let's see how this shakes out. Ungraded 1256, and I'm not seeing graded issues, so it looks like that's what you could expect to pay for it, or what you could expect to get if you had one. Okay, cool. It was still crazy to me what Uncanny Avengers number 1 was worth, and I thought it was possible AVX was similar to that, but it wasn't. So it's worth more than cover, but it's not crazy or anything. AVX, I mean, 3 times cover, couple times cover. And then we'll just go through these great dramatic head-to-head covers. So here is issue 2, or round 2. I'm really chomping at the bit to reread this right now. Here's that. Again, I just love all this Romita stuff. Wolverine going up against Captain America. This is a thing I like enough I might even consider buying in hardcover at some point. AVX round 4. That'd be the way I would read it now, probably. I mean, as I keep saying, I read a lot in digital now. But books, especially really, really great volumes of things, that's not just a few issues, or a couple of issues, I really like to have a nice hardcover for. And I'm choosy about it, and I don't do it very often, but occasionally I will splurge and I'll get a real nice tome to put on the shelf. And like I've said before, I don't go in for the big gigantic books usually, just because I don't love what they're like to sit and read. I can't really put them on my lap. Although I've thought about making an exception for the Zomnibus, on just the principle of the thing, because they went out of their way to call the Marvel Zombies Omnibus the Zomnibus. But they didn't think about it the first time around, because there is a Marvel Zombie Omnibus, which is pretty cheap. And then later they put up the Zomnibus, and they recently have re-released it, I think with new material. And it's like half price on Amazon right now. I've been kicking around getting that. But I just bought the Marvel Zombies board game. I decided to go ahead and do that first because I've been really excited about that, and the figures look fun to paint. But I don't know. Next time I got a little bit of money lying around I want to spend on comics, I think I might get the Zomnibus. AVX, round 5. The Phoenix Force is already coming halfway in the middle of the book. I forgot that was being set up that early. And then we've got number 6. We are halfway there, folks. Who is that Cyclops is dealing with? Is that magic, or is that... I can't even tell who that is right away. I hope everything's okay upstairs. I'm hearing feet. I'm hearing people walk around. Check my phone, make sure nobody needs me. Here is number 7. And just everybody and their dog was in this book, of course. But I just remember that being really exciting every time an issue came out. And it was really good start to finish. Oh, yeah, there's Namor. I forgot about that. With issue 8. Michael, have you ever bought a comic you hated the story inside but loved the comic art, the cover art? Oh, yeah, of course, all the time. I mean, there's lots of great covers for not very good issues. And I've also had that a lot with issues that the interior is wonderfully well drawn, but the story itself is not very good. There's plenty of that with, I don't know, Jeff Loeb's whole career. Not whole career, that's not fair, but a lot of it. Here is a ripped up Spider-Man in issue number 9, which reminds me, for some reason, Spider-Man is not playable as a zombie in the Marvel Zombies board game, and he's one of the first characters that becomes a zombie in Marvel Zombies. It's really irritating. Like, I thought it was weird because the core box, you actually get to play as the zombies. And then if you buy the X-Men core box, you play as heroes fighting the zombies. And I thought with expansions, maybe at some point, because it's already weird that you don't get that in the first place in the core box. I got to start moving through this faster. I don't want to take too many streams on one box here, but... it's just nice hanging out with you guys. I keep thinking of things I want to talk about. But I thought maybe with expansions, at some point, you'd get a zombie Spider-Man. Nope, never happens. And then here is issue 10. I feel like there's got to be some kind of behind-the-scenes reason for that. Senior Sticks, Cap, how was your casino trip? I had a good time. I lost money, and I don't know if I would ever do that again. But it was worth doing once. I hung out with Brandon and Chris, and... Chris did better than I did on the tables, but I don't know, $25 minimums. You don't go real far when you only bring $150 with you. But I lost 100. I pocketed whatever I won, so I ended up getting 50 of it back. But I did not even break even. But we had a good time. Here is AVX number 11. I'm gonna start going through these a little bit quicker, and I know this is 12 issues. Wasn't expecting Iron Man on the last cover. I guess we haven't had a cover with him real featured yet. But what I was going to say is I thought that there was some follow-up stuff for AVX, and I am correct about this. Here is AVX Consequences. That's right. And I know there's also a What If AVX, and I don't know if that's with my What Ifs or if that's in with AVX, but it's probably in my What Ifs, which means we won't see that until we're all like 5 years older, probably. No, I'm kidding. I think I'm kidding. And then, but I guess I didn't get more than the first issue of that, unless that was a one-shot, but was still called number 1. I don't know why it would be. I figured this was a miniseries, but I don't remember what happens in it. And then I remember there was this weird limited series tied into AVX that was Avengers versus X-Men, but like written out differently. And I feel like this had a technically different title. None of this is coming back to me right now. This is The Avengers versus the X-Men. I don't know why it's basically the same name, but it's a different series. But it was a tie-in series. Weird. No, Senior Sticks, we didn't go to a buffet. We actually went to a casino that doesn't have one. They had a different kind of restaurant there, but we didn't. We went late enough. We'd already eaten. But we got some drinks though. So that was fun. Oh, I guess I just have these in the wrong order because and now these covers are starting to come back to me. Because here's the AVX Consequences #2 with Cyclops jailed. Whether you think he was right or not, folks. Yes, Jareth, you should read AVX. It's great. Unseen Hand, All-Star Batman and Robin immediately comes to mind with that. Yeah, absolutely. So many brilliant and borderline iconic pieces of Batman art wasted on a terrible story. Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. And I'm sure more examples will come to me as we go through my comics. Because I'm sure I will find things where I'm like, oh yeah, this is terrible. But it looks very pretty. And then we had giant size little Marvel AVX with Scotty Young art. And I didn't have a lot of this little Marvel stuff. I know there was I forget which series it was. One of the events that they went back to, because they redid all of them in little miniseries tied into Secret Wars. And they did a little Marvel thing there. And I can't remember if it was AVX or one of the other events that they did with those guys. Oh no, this was that. That is what this is. Pardon me. Yeah, there's the Secret Wars logo down there. That's what I'm remembering. Look at Cyclops getting his ass handed to him playing dodgeball. That's a great cover. I love that. Let's get this one graded because it would be funny. I'm kidding. So I do feel like I was remiss here in not putting all of the Secret Wars tie-ins together. Did I take the events with Secret Wars and put them with the actual real events? So like when we get to Civil War, which I have not all of, but a couple of issues of, did I put the Secret Wars Civil War in with Civil War? I guess I must have, unless I was inconsistent with it. So this is telling me some of the things that I need to improve upon in my collection. And then these covers are just great. Here's #4. This would be fun to go back and look at. I don't know if I ever reviewed that. I mean, with Secret Wars, I think I was just reviewing everything issue to issue as it came out. So some of that stuff might be worth going back to and talking about all together at some point. You know, if anybody cares, here's that Axis event. We're just running into nothing but events. I guess lots of events start with the letter A. A lot of specifically Marvel events from this period. Because everything we're looking at here is within like a 3-year period. Okay, so here was Axis. These covers are jumping back to me. I remember nothing about this story. Although there's Onslaught. So I guess there was an Onslaught. Oh, wait a minute. That's Red Skull with an Onslaught suit. Apparently that happened. Like, I remember that image, but I don't remember anything about this book. And again, I think a lot of this stuff I reviewed issue to issue as it came out, and some of it I did full reviews of, and some of it I didn't. I don't know if I ever sat down and did a full discussion on Axis as a thing. Hayden Spring, the Dark Multiverse stuff got crazy. Yes, it did. Absolutely. But that's an example of some really fun art with kind of some dodgy storytelling when you get into metal and all of that. Tony Casero, not related to your comics. Well, that's why we're talking about. It is related to comics, though. I spent 10 years collecting Ultimate Spider-Man. Cool. Only to learn the last volume isn't where Peter dies, and I have to figure out this whole renumbering. I don't remember how they numbered that. I thought it was weird. When you say the last volume, do you mean you were collecting it in trade and they traded it differently? Or do you mean that the numbers in the comics had changed by that point? Because I thought he died in the regular numbering, and then we don't get to a renumbered #1 until Miles Morales is in the costume. Because I'm pretty sure Ultimate Spider-Man #1 with the relaunch was Miles Morales. I bet that issue books now, and I've got that. So woohoo for me. That, I mean, he's so popular. That could be worth $50-$75 or more. And the watches get to it, it's like $12. Anyway, Axis #3. Maybe I should go back and read and review this at some point. I've really been enjoying getting back to comics on the channel lately. All that Dark Knight Returns stuff last week was just really enjoyable, and that was really daunting for me. I like that's been really intimidating material and stuff that I was kind of afraid to ever sink my teeth into, and it was just a joy to talk about. And everybody seemed to really enjoy it. So thank you guys for taking a look at that. If you did, Axis #4. Whatever's going on with this, there's Cyclops in that like post AVX suit. Hayden Spring, there's an Ultimatum tie-in. Oh, that was around Ultimatum too. I forgot about that. And then it becomes Ultimate Comics for a while, and then he dies. Oh, that's right. Was that dumb period where it was like Ultimate Comics, Ultimate Spider-Man, or whatever, where you get all these titles where you had Ultimate like 2 or 3 times on the cover. This is the cover of Axis I remember the most. I love this kind of pseudo reflection thing. That's really fun. If you flip it upside down, not only does it not look upside down because of the reflection thing, but also the title still looks the same. That's awesome. There's a part of me that wants to display this and hang it upside down. Apologies that I keep repeating myself, but I'm still kicking around real hard how I can display more of my collection. And I haven't come up with anything yet, but my goal is to get to where I can put up at least 100 issues at a time and keep revolving them out. I got to figure that out. If anybody has any brilliant ideas about that, besides just like slat wall or something, because I don't have the wall space. So it has to be some kind of system that I can set like further into the floor so that it doesn't have to take up actual wall space. So I don't really know how to do it. Like, I've got comic racks, just like single scanning racks, but you can't really see the covers that well. And I've thought about getting spinner racks, which are not cheap, but again, you wouldn't be able to see full colors or covers. So I got to figure that out. Axis #6. All right, let's blow through these guys. Axis #7. Look, you can do it with this too. Isn't that cool? I'm going to put that upside down too. Do they all do it? I'm only just now noticing. Here's #8. Well, I guess with this, if you want to... Yeah, you flip it upside down. Do they all do it? Did I never notice this? We made Axis look like a palindrome. It's really cool. I never noticed that. Hayden Spring, side your house with them, Cap. Well, that'd be a bad idea. Because then, hailstorms and things. I just want to do this with all of them now. And that's #9. How did I never notice that? Did you guys ever try out the augmented reality with these? It's kind of a fun novelty for 5 minutes. Where you take it had an app, and you take your phone, and you put it over a panel, and certain panels would have the AR logo next to them, and it would give you like extra information and things. I think sometimes he would even take you to a video of somebody that worked on the book talking about it. There were a few things that did that here and there, which are pretty cool. Braden Atkinson, that's why it's called Axis. Yeah, because it's on its axis and you can flip it. It's just something I never noticed they did that with the logo. That's very clever. I feel dumb. Michael, I appreciate all the questions, man. I gotta blow through some of these comics now. So I might try to answer another one before I'm done tonight. But if you've not checked out the Captain Logan show on Thursday nights, that is the best place for some of the kinds of questions that you're asking. Because a lot of that, because the second half especially is a Q&A show. Here is, not to say that I never answer questions on any other shows, but you're asking lots of questions. I'm not going to be able to get to all of them. Here is Azrael #5. It's kind of a cool cover. I don't have a lot in the way of solo Azrael. That's the thing I'd like to collect more of. And I don't know if I have the original have Sword of Azrael somewhere, surely, right? I guess we'll see if it shows up here, because if it does, alphabetically, it would be right after this. So, even though Sword of Azrael comes first. So anyway, here is number 7. This would have been the first volume of this, and then, I don't know, there's 2 or 3 volumes of Azrael at this point. I think there's, at some point, it was even somebody else in the suit. I'm not sure who that is. Bye, Senior Sticks. Good to see you, man. Hayden Springer, like those people who put up citing paper and then don't put up citing, but with comics. Yeah, I would ruin all my stuff. This is a bad idea. And I don't think my wife would go for it. Here is Azrael, Agent of the Bat, number 47. I think this is the same series, but they just added Agent of the Bat to the title. And this was a No Man's Land tie-in leading up to No Man's Land, because No Man's Land, just like Nightfall, was one of those events where every single book that had anything to do with Batman, and even stuff that didn't, were connected to it and had these like logos down the side, and sometimes at the top too. So this one is No Man's Land at the top. So we're actually into No Man's Land proper by this one. This is Azrael number 58. But then there's also this thing down the side that's Day of Judgment. So I would assume this is the arc, and then this is the larger event that it's all tied into. Everybody confused? And then what's really fun is, and I mean, it's useful, but I think it was confusing to anybody that wasn't in the know and wasn't buying everything. You'd get events with DC. They started doing this with Death of Superman. I don't know if anything did it before that, where you'd have the regular number of the book, and then you'd have the number somewhere else on the issue in like a little triangle that was the number of the next issue in a larger arc that was going between a bunch of books. So you could put them all, you could file them together that way if you wanted to. And then here is Azrael number 88, which looks like a Birds of Prey tie-in, which is cool. And Birds of Prey is a thing that I'd like to start collecting more hardcore, partly because I love that stuff, what I've read of it, and partly because it's cheap and most people don't care. Oh, boo! Bruce Wayne Fugitive. It's so boring. Here is Bruce Wayne Murderer is worse, but it's still pretty boring. I reviewed all of that a few years ago, and my head was spinning. It was so dull. But this is high into that. Here's Azrael 91. I didn't remember having quite this much Azrael. And then, oh yeah, this is what I was talking about. This is that other Azrael. I don't think I've ever even looked at this, but this is Azrael number 4. I'm assuming this is a volume 2. Fabian Nietzsche. Yeah, let's pop this open for a second. I'm curious to see what this interior looks like. But yeah, I don't know who this other guy is in the Azrael suit. Oh, this is real kind of sketchy and gritty looking. Boo, Damien. I kind of like what this book looks like. That's cool. Yeah, I have this crazy idea that at some point I should read more of my comics. I'll try to answer this real quick. Michael, what's your favorite Batman villain if Joker was gone? I'm so sick of Joker. Give Black Mask a chance. Always like mafia villains like Jigsaw, Kingpin, especially for street-level heroes. Yeah, we talked about this in some various places. Oh, wait a minute. Here's the first issue of the Azrael book we were just looking at. I actually really like that cover. That's cool. I don't know why this is out of order, so I'm going to fix it. But I kind of dig that. Yeah, if I ever go back to the format I was doing with Not Spawn Year and do single issues, that's one I'll throw in there. It'd be cool to read that and take a look at that. But yeah, one of the, as far as just, I mean, the thing is, it doesn't even matter if Joker is there or not. It's immaterial because Joker's not my favorite Batman villain in the first place. It's Riddler. But as far as, like, it's almost two questions, right? Like, as far as unsung, interesting Batman villains that haven't gotten enough time of day, like Hugo Strange is certainly up there. And more becoming a go-to for me and a lot of people with just characters we want to see in live action. And Ventriloquist is one of those as well. And a more off-the-page Scarecrow. Azrael #2. I got to fix my order here. Again, I didn't realize I had all this. I've got this sequentially here. It's so weird. I'm very curious about this book now. I wonder how much of this I have. Wait, here's #4. I have 2 4s. I don't know why that is. I don't know why they were out of order. I'm very confused about my own collection here. And here's 5. Hey, look, let's go ahead and look up that first issue and see if that's worth anything. It's probably not, but you never know. Azrael #1, 2009. Well, if you had a 9.2 graded, it'd be worth $18.87. So, I mean, that's cool. It's like a $13, $18 book. Not graded. You get $6 for it, but that's what it would be worth graded. My guess is this was stuff that I got out of a random Batman box that I bought. I did that a couple times, and I've talked about this in an earlier one of these. There was a guy on eBay that I could buy boxes of just Batman from, and I probably collected all of this with that, but I forgot all about this. I wonder how much of it I've got. Yeah, I've got this unbroken sequentially. This Nietzsche Azrael. And there's a lot of great Batman stuff going on right around this time. That's also when Gotham City Sirens was happening too. Okay, now we get past the A's. We are officially to the letter B, folks. Woohoo! It only took like 4 hours, maybe 5. Unseen Hand, it's strange how Batman's 3 biggest female villains are all anti-heroes now. I wonder what's up with that. That's a terrific point. I mean, for the longest time, you couldn't say that about Poison Ivy. I think the answer to that is if you get popular enough that people really want to see your own book, inevitably, invariably, you will end up an anti-hero. And you might jump back and forth, but you'll end up an anti-hero. So, I mean, when he says that, like, Catwoman has been that way for a very long time. And, I mean, for most of us, like, that we've always known her that way. And Harley Quinn got too popular. And so, of course, that happened. And in more recent years, that's happened with Poison Ivy as well. Okay, so now we get into IDW Back to the Future, which is the dictionary definition of a mixed bag. This series, not to just review everything as we go, but this series was way too referential and had... it felt like the whole point of it was just for everybody that wrote on this book to prove that they knew all the one-liners and all the quotes from the movie and all the little meticulous pieces of trivia. And some of the world building was fun, and as it went along, it got better once it got away from just like the regular story stuff and it tried its own stuff. But this initial miniseries was kind of just okay, and then it kept going. Like, I believe, we'll see here in a second, but I believe this started as a miniseries, and then instead of starting the numbering over, it just went to in issue 5 or 6 or however many it was supposed to have as a mini. IDW typically did 4 when they would do miniseries, but yeah, here's 5, and I've got most of this. I think the main series I have all of, and I'm sure there's maybe a couple things here and there I'm missing, but I think I have pretty much the majority of Back to the Future. I did review Biff to the Future when that came out, which started great, and I ended horribly. That was a gigantic disappointment by the end, because it's kind of a what-if thing that made that mistake that a lot of alternate history stories have to, where it becomes too much like the original story by the end. Like, somehow an audience wouldn't accept it going really dark and bleak and ending on a sour note, which is what should have happened with that. But it's like, oh no, it's Back to the Future. You gotta have a happy ending. I think my biggest frustration with Back to the Future, and Ghostbusters sometimes, but to a lesser degree, is it couldn't decide if it was an all ages book or not. It's like it really wanted kind of to be okay for kids, but then sometimes it would really surprise you with something more adult than that. And you'd go, I don't really know who this is for. Especially because obviously this is nostalgia bait stuff. Most of the people reading this at the time would have been 30 or older. See, I don't really know what they were thinking with that. But yeah, once we got into this arc where they're actually in the future of 2015, or maybe it was even farther than that, I can't remember. A lot of that stuff was really fun. When this series just started running away with itself, it was pretty great. Or at least a lot better. Unseen Hand, have you played the Back to the Future Telltale game? I have tried it. I didn't get super far. This place got stuck, and I never went back to it. Brandon and I were playing it together, but I think I have the comic adaptation of it. We'll see in here, but they did a 40-issue miniseries of that, too. That's a nice cover. I wasn't the biggest fan of the kind of cartoony art with the series. It's all right. Although this is a fun variant cover. I like that. Oh, this is cool. I didn't remember this cover. Here's 15. And there's a bunch of Marty McFlys all attacking the regular 85 Marty. That's pretty cool. Yeah, I wanted to get Brandon to read more of this, and Brandon just has a hard time getting into the medium of comics. But he really should get back to it at some point. Then we got this fun, sketchy variant for issue 16. Bob Gale's name was always on these, but it was a lot like Eastman, where he was consulting, but he wasn't really actively working on these, like Eastman with the IDW Ninja Turtles comics. That'll take forever when we get to those. And I stopped collecting those after, what is it, 100? Or I stopped actively collecting everything with that. And I might go back at some point and start buying those up again. I am seriously considering, now that Ninja Turtles is relaunched, and I've got the first issue of that now. I don't know if 2's out yet. And Power Rangers is about to relaunch. And Power Rangers is actually about to reboot in continuity, which is interesting. And the art for that new book looks fantastic. I'm also excited because they're keeping Flores, and she's really good. She knows her Power Rangers history like the back of her hand, and her writing is really solid. I like her a lot. So I'm actually excited about the reboot. I'm kind of glad they're doing that. I'm a little bit worried that it'll be about a lot of characters I don't know anything about, because they're mixing and matching everything. Like, it's starting with Lauren Sheba from Power Rangers Samurai, and I'm like, well, I know who that is. And she was kind of big. Well, I can't remember if she was big in Shattered Grid or not, but we did some stuff with her in the comics somewhere, I forget now, and she is a character we use a lot in the board games. Like, I know who that is, but I'm like, if we don't do very much Mighty Morphin at the beginning, I'm going to be a little bit lost, but we'll see what happens with that, because it's supposed to be a fresh start from the ground up, utilizing characters that, like, if you know, but you're supposed to be able to jump right into that. And not in a, like, jumping on point kind of way, but in a full-on reboot sort of way. So I'm very curious about that when that starts. But anyway, I brought that up to say I may go ahead and start regularly buying at least Power Rangers and Ninja Turtles again. But it's a slippery slope when I get a pull list, because I'll walk into a comic shop and all of a sudden there's 15 books I want to get, and I don't know, at $5 a pop if I want to get into too much of that again. But anyway, Back to the Future 17. I like these kind of cutesy covers. Those are fun. I'm gonna have to move this stack at some point. That was, 17. I'm missing a couple, unless, because here's 20. That's a fun cover. Unless my stuff is just out of order. Yeah, I seem to be missing a couple, so I might want to gap fill this at some point, just for the sake of completion. Okay, I'm gonna move the stack. Hold on, everybody. It's getting unruly. Thomas Slow, I played it to the end. He's still talking about Telltale Back to the Future. It's really out there. I can't decide if I can consider the game's story canon to the trilogy. I'll have to finish that story at some point. At least read the comics, because I haven't done that past the first one. I don't think. Okay, we're already at almost an hour. I'm going to do as much of this as I'm going to at least get to the halfway point of the box tonight. I am starting to fade a little bit. It's getting late. So we'll see if I get a second win and if I feel like going another half hour or if I got to call it quits in 5 or 10 minutes. But I'm going to play it by ear, folks. I remember these variants. These were kind of cool. This is 22. Yeah, I'm missing a couple in there for some reason. Weird. Maybe they're just misplaced. Oh, time served. Yeah, I remember this arc. I don't remember exactly how many issues this went to. Did it get past 25? It's cool it went this long, though. 24. I may go back and try some of this at some point. I know Freddie was really liking the series. My kids all like Back to the Future a lot. And then here's 25. I wonder if this got a proper ending. Yeah, because that's the end of what I have. So unless I quit. And then here was... Okay, so this is the Telltale miniseries. And IDW titled it Citizen Brown. And I think there were just 4 issues of this. So at the very least, I will read this at some point to get the bare bones of the story. Here is 3. I hate the heart because I can't on the chat because I can't always see words behind it. What you recommend good Batman comics, says Paradox Camera. I have a hard time not just going back to my kind of standard answers with that. But I think because it really depends on your sensibilities and what, like, quote unquote your Batman is. But for my money, because like I could tell you to go back to the 70s and look at like Englehart and that kind of stuff. But I honestly think the best thing to do, the best place to start, to get a real good handle on a more kind of modern but still classic take on the character is Legends of the Dark Knight. I think maybe that's what I'll start recommending to people is go back and look at the first arc in Legends of the Dark Knight. Here is 4 with Einstein in the car. It's still so stupid to me that Marty looks at that car and goes, "Is it hot?" It's like it's frozen. Like it's so obviously cold. Air cold. Okay, here is Biff to the Future. Such a fun, what if kind of story. That it starts as, if memory serves, it starts as a I'm fading, sorry. As an origin for like seeing all the events that transpire leading up to Biff getting famous and kind of taking over Hill Valley. And then it looked like it was supposed to be what that world would look like if Marty didn't interfere. And it turned its tail between its legs at the end. It was really unfortunate, but anyway, it was neat that they did that. Well, Braden Atkinson, you should check out Back to the Future. They're wonderful. And currently on Netflix again, I believe. Yeah, the Biff Lorraine thing is always uncomfortable. Oh, yeah, this was 6, I think. Yeah, here's number 5. Robert Weil, was Biff a misunderstood hero? The short answer is no, not really. See, I just wanted these to kind of play like horror comics, and it's pretty violent at the start. And then it just turns into an all ages comic again. Here is a B cover for Back to the Future #1. Was this relaunched, or was this... Oh, you know what? I think this might be Tales of the Time Train. I forgot about that. I don't know how much of this I actually looked at. And here was a Funko cover. That's fun. But that's #2. I think I stopped on these. I'm not sure I own all of this. I don't even know how long it went. But yeah, IDW had a lot more Back to the Future than I think a lot of people realized. That's a cool cover, by the way. It's the Enchantment 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. You see what they did there? You see what they did there? They mixed the two references in Back to the Future. The Enchantment Under the Sea dance and Doc Brown and Clara's obsession with Jules Verne. See, they blended them. It's a cool looking cover, though. And this is like a Dick Sprang kind of idea. That's fun. Braden Atkinson, time travel is something I really don't like. I mean, in general, me neither, although it rends its ugly head into so much genre stuff that I like, that I end up putting up with it to the point where I turn back around and end up kind of liking it again. And the movie I'm making is a time travel thing because it had to be. But anyway, here comes. But Back to the Future is so tongue in cheek about it. It's just really fun, and it's character driven enough and comedy driven enough that it won't break your brain too hard. Robert, that's the biggest Back to the Future comic collection I've ever seen. Thank you. I'm very proud of it. Here is Balder the Brave #1. I started collecting Walt Simonson's Thor as I would get it in collections after I read it in the big giant tome that one of our viewers sent me to review and loved it. And as I've said before, I had to send that tome back to him. But I've got a lot of the singles now. I don't think I own all of it. But whenever this is back when I was still on eBay and then at the flea market, whenever I would get these in, I would go ahead and hang on to them. And the Balder miniseries is, I think, kind of part of all of that. I can't actually remember if... Yeah, I'm pretty sure Simonson wrote this and it's in that tome, but it's been a while. Okay, now we get into something that I have been meaning to read forever, and I should review this too at some point. This is Chuck Dixon coming back to do a full Bane story, and this is Bane Conquest. I missed the first issue when it came out. I remember this now, and I'll have to go back and gap fill that at some point. Hopefully that's not worth too much. Let's go ahead and look that up right now, shall we? And in fact, just for fun, let's look up Back to the Future #1. I'm sure that's not worth anything, but let's find out. Oh, and there's actually old Back to the Future comics, it turns out, from the cartoon show for the animated series. I just noticed here on price charting. Okay, are you guys ready for this? This is shocking. Okay, so ungraded, you could get one for $13, which is really respectable. But if I got mine graded, it would probably be somewhere between an 8.0 and a 9.2, and it would be a $33 to a $43 book. It's actually really surprising that it's worth that much. I didn't realize that. Okay, let's look up Bane Conquest. So this is going to be not to find out what one of my issues is valued at, but what it will cost me probably to get one, because I'm missing that issue. Bane Conquest 1. I must have written it in wrong. Oh, weird. I'm struggling to find this. Why is it not coming up? That is what this is called, Bane Conquest. Weird. Okay, give me just a second here. Now I'm on about this. It just keeps coming up with video games, with Bionic Commando for some reason. What is happening? Okay, I'm gonna go to eBay real quick. Just want to see what I can get one for. We're taking a detour, folks. This is what I do now. I just stream when I'm shopping. And I try to make you guys watch me shop. Isn't that exciting? Jareth, yay, Chuck Dixon is a great person to meet at cons. He used to come to my comic shop a lot. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I've still never met him. He's got a YouTube channel. I haven't really watched much of it yet, but... Oh, it's cheap. Great. I can get one for $3 or $4 with shipping. So, maybe yeah, 5 or 6. Okay, cool. Good to know. So I will gap fill that at some point. But anyway, this was an 8-issue maxi series, and I thought the idea with this was that it kind of got around Rebirth and all of that, and I went back to, post the back break, post Nightfall. But then, because it's always kind of awkward, like by the time you get to Rebirth, we're still technically in New 52. Eventually, I think, so, like, I don't think Nightfall exactly happened the way it happened. It was always really kind of vague. And then apparently after I stopped reading, we went back to straight up original DC continuity, which I figured would at some point finally happen probably, which gets really awkward with Superman because Superman already did it before the rest of the universe did, with what's his face, I can't think of his name right now. But anyway, so it's curious though that Batman is wearing his Rebirth costume here, so I might be wrong about what exactly Dixon is doing with this. So it's a cool cover with Catwoman. I'm liking all these minimal backgrounds with some of these covers. There is number 6. Give me a second. I gotta look up something. Okay. Dan Jurgens, that's who I was trying to think of. Okay. Bane Conquest 7. You guys sign off in the comments. How do you feel about covers that look like interiors with, like this kind of old school, like early Marvel did it a lot, where you have characters with word balloons on the cover? Like, what do you think about doing that now, like in more modern comics? Like is that fun? Do you like that, or do you want your covers to look more kind of clean and more like an actual book cover, where it's just a dynamic image and there's not words that you're supposed to read? Or is it kind of a case-by-case basis thing? Does anybody have an opinion about this? A lot of throwback covers going on here, because this is kind of a 90s throwback thing in the first place, so I guess that makes sense. But this is number 8. Plushie DX, they can be neat. Yeah, I think so too. Oh, you know what? Okay, this is interesting. I probably knew about this at one time. Hang on, let me go back. Okay, I said this was an 8-issue maxi, and I thought maybe it changed at some point. No, it was 12 all the way through. Okay, I have seen that happen though, where you'll have a mini or a maxi that will say like 1 of 4 or whatever, and then suddenly the number changes somewhere later where they decide to make it longer. Braden, as long as it fits the book, yeah, I think I agree with that. It just kind of depends on what it is. But I just wondered if there weren't people that were kind of more purist or like uniform about it. Here's number 10. Yeah, I don't know why I thought this was 8. My big takeaway from doing this so far has just been I've got a ton of stuff I want to either reread or finally read. I'm having a ton of that. I love this cover. This is wonderful. Bane just busted up the book logo, the book title. That's great. Oh, you guys, I want to plaster my books everywhere. I want more people to get to see some of this cool stuff. He just lives in boxes all the time. It makes me sad. You know, it could be doing things for all of us. We could all be enjoying them. And I just don't have a way to do it. Okay, so this is a weird thing that I own. I met the guy that wrote and drew this, and I bought this issue because he was a nice guy and it looked like kind of a fun premise. And I think I reviewed this at some point. So this is kind of a parody thing called Bat Bear. So this is not DC. This is this is very underground, made in a guy's basement. And I don't know how many issues he did of this. I just have this first one. But yeah, there's that. So I have some weird, local obscure stuff like that. Plus, you actually need some display cases. Yeah, I really do. I just don't have space for a lot of, cases. I'm not sure what to do. I got to come up with something, though. It's driving me crazy. Okay, now we get into Batgirl. This is... What series is this? Puckett, Ballant, and Burchett. So Batgirl #1. And I'm going to pop this open because I think this is like a late 90s, early 2000s thing, but I don't actually know what series this is. It looks like a Barbara Gordon thing. This art is cool. This is very kind of animated series inspired and pretty consistent with a lot of the Dixon stuff in the early 90s and Alan Grant and those guys. Really liking the action in some of these panels. This is a cool looking issue, and I've never looked at this before. Oh, okay. This comes out in like 97, 98. Yeah, because here's an ad for the Batman and Robin, I think, PlayStation game. Look at that. I'd like to make more videos about ads again. I was doing a series for a while called Commercials and Comics, which is a name I would change probably because it's not accurate. It's print ads. I don't know what to call it. But it might be fun to do that in a live stream format at some point where I just pull a bunch ahead of time and we just kind of get all nostalgic and go down memory lane and look at a lot of them probably really weird issues. But yeah, I don't know if that was supposed to be like early days of Batgirl before she's Oracle. Braden says so doujinshi, as I'm pronouncing that right, as it is called in the manga world, referring to Bat Bear. Oh, you mean like the kind of parody that is? Is it specifically turning characters into animals? I've never heard that term before. So I don't know if I'm right that that's what you're talking about, but that's really interesting. Okay, and now we get... Ooh, I do have #1 for this. I didn't realize I had that. I'll have to look this up. Okay, so I don't know how many issues of this series I own. This is another thing that I was gap-filling a bunch when I was buying out collections. And I thought I maybe only had 10 or 15 of these, but it looks like I might have significantly more than that. We'll find out if that's true. But here is the Cassandra Cain Batgirl. And I've got the first several issues in trade, but apparently I also have at least some of the singles. And Jason has been reading through this, and he just adores this series. Cassandra Cain is his favorite DC character, hands down, and I love her a lot, too. I want to finally take the plunge and read all of this. I've read disparate issues here and there. Braden says self-published or fan-created works, such as novels, magazines, or comics. So that's pretty broad. So it's not specifically... You're not even talking about the parody part of it. You're just saying not published by a big house. Okay. But yeah, I know lots of folks that do that. Anyway, so I gotta look this up. I'm very excited to have that. And I did not realize I had that. I want to display it somewhere. Okay, let's see what this goes for. That should be worth something. It probably won't be, but it should be. Okay, Batgirl number 1, 2000. Respectable, but not earth-shattering. You can get an ungraded one for $8. So this is very buyable if you want to go grab one. But it's worth a little bit if it's graded. And if you had a really great one graded, it'd be worth about $50. And like we've talked about before, I don't know if it would be worth it to get it graded when something is valued that low. But if you graded a bunch of stuff in bulk, you might be able to make it worth your while. Especially if you're not wanting to resell and you just want to display it and brag that you have this really pretty issue that is significant in some way and you got it graded. Mine has... Just looking at it inside of the bag, I'm trying to see if it's got any spine stuff or anything. Not really. So mine could be, again, anywhere between an 8 and a 9. So yeah, that could be worth, somewhere around $40 maybe. Again, if it was graded. But yeah, that's cool. Okay, this is one of my favorite covers of all time. It's just really provocative and always sticks with me and is really tragic looking. Please help me not to die. It's just always stuck with me. And for the longest time, this was the only issue of this series I owned for whatever reason. I think I had that before I really knew very much about Cassandra Cain. And then I read her in the No Man's Land novel before I ever read any of the issues. And so I had this kind of image of her in my head before I really even read her in comics. And just loved her. Here's number 3. I'm curious to see how much of this I have in succession. So far, so good. Here is 4. That's a great cover, too. Some of the covers here go to a little bit of a manga place, I think. Here is 5. Wow, this is a great one, too. It looks like she's holding up her logo. That's awesome. Look at that. That's a crazy batsuit. Look at his belt. It's so massive. It looks like he'd weigh him down. And that is a nutso bat symbol. Like, it's raised. Like, it almost looks like he could pull it off. But yeah, he's ripping her suit apart. That's great. No more Batgirl. Like Spider-Man, no more. If it happened in a movie, he would just say it over and over again. I don't think I have this whole series, but so far I've got it unbroken. Here is 8. Here's the reason Jason put Lady Shiva on his top 50 DC list. By the way, Austin and I and Jason are going to try to do our top 50 Marvel characters pretty soon. We would do it tomorrow night, but we're going to be reviewing Alien Romulus. And so it may have to be in the next, like a week after that. And Austin and I are also going to start our series on our top 100 favorite superhero movies of all time sometime this week, possibly after Request or after the Captain Logan show this week. So stay tuned for a date on that, but that will be coming very soon. And we'll be doing that in a bunch of streams, really taking our time, like I'm doing right now. Just like we did our impromptu superhero movie history videos. Here's number 9. Oh, Braden says Cassandra Cain is an inspiration for 2 characters in that Ruby show. Interesting. This was an issue that I reviewed for Not Spawn Year, I think. I think it was this one. That is 10. Here is 11. Wow, it just keeps going. It's fun to be surprised by your own stuff. This is part of Officer Down. I guess it's nice that this series got this far before it had to start tying in with events. So that's good. I will probably finish up here after Batgirl. It looks like I'm getting about half a box done a stream. I'm also talking too much. but it's very relaxing. I'm having fun hanging out with you guys. This is like what other people do with video game streams. Batgirl busted. We like to put a lot of words under the logo to give you a sense of like thematically what the issue is going to be about. Here's 14. I really had no idea I had this unbroken run of this series. So far, we've got everything. And I don't know exactly how many issues this was. I love this cover. Here's 15. I want to say I've never seen this, but obviously I had to have glanced at these when I filed them, but I don't have any recollection of this cover. Here's Joker having gunned down Cassandra Cain and Batman. That is a pretty cover. Like if I was holding issues out to display someplace. I don't mean to brag. It's just like finally going through all of this already, only 2 boxes in, like this collection is way prettier than I realized, just because a lot of the stuff you get, you're gap filling, you file it away, you never look at it again. Here is number 16. And it's nice to have covers that are worthy of this book. 17. We haven't found a gap yet. There's 18. There's Robin. Still Tim Drake at that point. 19. Nobody dies tonight. Oh, man. Famous last words. Spider-Man liked to say that a lot during the Dan Slott run. Batgirl spoiled, yeah. Okay, so I'm starting to see where Jason has landed in his read of this, because he's been bringing up spoiler a lot lately. Jason actually just did a really cool, I wish I could show it to you, it's upstairs. Maybe I'll take a picture of it and post it if Jason doesn't mind, but he's been working with pastels a lot lately, and he did a really cool pastel drawing of spoiler. 22? Was that 20? Okay, that's our first gap. We have hit a gap. We don't have all of Batgirl. Here is 22. Cassandra Cain getting Batgirl. And, of course, there's also a spoiler Batgirl series. Stephanie Brown. And then we jump to 26. Okay, but the gap filling is not going to be bad with this series. I say that. Here, oh, we're back to Bruce Wayne Fugitive. Great. It's really weird, some of the events that we've crossed into with multiple series just because of where stuff falls in the alphabet. Because we did Azrael, and now we're doing Batgirl, and so we haven't even gotten any Batman stuff yet, but we've already hit some of the Batman events. This is a cool cover as well, kind of a neat kind of gothic thing. But yeah, here's 27. Rest in peace, Vesper Fairchild. And then we jump all the way to 44. So like I said, this is going to take a bit to gap fill that, but I didn't realize just how long this series was. Is it 60, 70 issues maybe? Here is 45. So we're all the way up into 2002. Look, this is the 2002 Wizard Fan Award winner. So you know it must be a great book if the fans of Wizard liked it. I actually have been kicking around trying to build a complete collection of Wizard at some point. And I have, I don't know, probably 20 issues. That magazine series, I mean, when you look at it online, there are quite a few issues that people are trying to command, $10, $15 for. I'm sure if you could buy some in bulk, you could do better than that. But it's not like Nintendo Power, where some of the issues are a lot harder to get your hands on. So I think it would be doable. And I may want to do a series on that. I don't know if I've brought that up anywhere yet, but that's one of the several ideas I've had lately for some of these extra streams during the week, is to just sit down and thumb through a Wizard together. And I wouldn't plan for it ahead of time. I would do it as kind of a reaction thing, because it would be fun to skim those and look at some of those articles together, and particularly the infamous lists of like fan casting lists for movies that aren't going to be made. There's 46. Okay, now we're back to sequential again. Here's 47. Braden says he thinks it stops at 50. Might as well be dead. Man, some of these covers are super depressing, yeah? 48. I hope Jason's not getting too sad when he's reading Batgirl. And here's 49. Oh, it's the end of everything. Oh, no. I mean, she was already Batgirl no more like 25 issues ago. No, it keeps going, Braden. Here's Batgirl versus Batman. Oh, man. That sounds really exciting. That's 50. And then 51. Yeah, it keeps going. Look at that. In the Garden of Good and Evil. I have a feeling an anti-hero is coming. But at this point, you know, more like a straight-up villain, I think. Here's 52. Yeah, so it looks like it's probably going to go to at least 60, unless it stops at a weird number. Braden says, ish. Yeah, ish. Oh, and here is our Stephanie Brown Robin. There she is. And then I don't remember how far after this book, Stephanie Brown's book, happens. But I've read the first few issues of that, and it's also really cool. Batgirl in the Information Rage. Okay, everything about this is really convoluted. That's a funky looking villain, though. I wonder who that is. It looks like she's wound up in the Batman Beyond reality. Yeah, some of these covers I've never seen. All right, I haven't looked close enough at. Oh, now we're tying into War Games from 2004. This guy's got way more tattoos than me. Look at this guy. 58. I wonder if that's his whole motif, where he's just like a tattoo villain. Wow, look at the underside of her shoe. I always love detailed shoe undersides. Remember that Hush cover where it looks like Jim Lee spent more time on the underside of Batman's foot than the rest of Batman? We'll get to that. I don't know how much of Hush I have in singles, but I know I have some of it. I'm pretty sure I have the first issue. What's going on with Robin's eyes here? That is really funky weird. He looks vaguely like... Who drew this? Granza? I don't know who that is. It looks vaguely like the way Victor Zsasz is drawn in Nightfall. Except his eyes aren't quite as weird. But they're jagged like that. But then this weird thing happens with... I love impossible visuals in comics. This weird thing happens with Victor Zsasz where the points of his eye... He's got points at the end of his eyes, and they go off his face. So he looks like he could smack people with them. It's so weird. Curse of the Penguin. You're 60. Yeah, Braden, it looks like we could get all the way to 70 with this series. Here is 61. Even if we get to 80, I'm hoping that Braden Atkinson still says, no, it's 50-ish, though. Ish. I said ish. I'm just messing with you, man. Beyond the Realms of Death. God, it's so macabre, this series. We've been looking at mostly really cool stuff tonight because everything I've been looking at has been making me want to sit down and pop these open and read them. And by that, I mean pull them up on my iPad so that I don't have to mess up my singles, because I typically don't actually read them this way anymore. But there's a part of me that wants to with some of this. Thomas Slow, how much time did the artist spend on Batman's... Oh, I see. Yeah, I'm not going to actually read that out loud, but he's talking about Batman being naked in Batman Damned. Yeah, I wonder how much detail was put into that. Number 64, Blade of the Ravager. So I'm curious if this book stays of a quality all the way through, or if it kind of falls off toward the end. I mean, it goes on a really long time. Daddy Dearest. Is that actually Kane? Is that who she's fighting there? Batgirl. Queasy Rider. probably nobody's favorite issue, just judging by that title. 67. High Flying with the Birds of Prey. Cool. That's exciting. Okay, that last issue, I was like, I never want to look at that. This I want to pop open and take a look at immediately. There's no justice in the League of Assassins. No kidding. I don't think anybody would really expect that, though. We know what they're after. They're assassins. You know, there's a definition there. Quick Freeze, Slow Death. Did anybody remember this going this long? They're 69. I love how unbroken this is, though. I had this huge jump from 27 to 40-something. And then after that, a lot of this has been unbroken. And here's 70. The Resurrection of Mrs. Freeze. Ooh, that's exciting. I didn't know about this. I want to pop this open. Here, real quick. Real quick. Let's spoil ourselves here. We were just looking at spoiler. Let's get some spoilers. What happens with Nora Freeze here, I wonder? Let's take a look at this art. Well, yeah, this art stays pretty consistent all the way through. It's kind of what I remember from this book, and we're this far in. I'm not sure if it's the same artist. Oh, wow. There are ads in this book for the Versus system. And this was the series, this was the pack that I started with. The Batman versus Ra's al Ghul 2-pack, where you get 2 pre-made decks. And they're just 30-card decks. And then as you start buying packs, you build 60-card decks. And my wife and I just started playing this game again. It is a dead game. There haven't been new cards for years and years, but it's come back in a somewhat different form with, I think, slightly different rules, and it's not CCG packs you buy anymore. You buy pre-made decks now, or you buy cards you know what you're getting into. So I think you can still make decks with it. And they've got various licenses, but it's just Marvel and not DC. They weren't able to get both licenses again. But my wife and I always played DC, and then I had a friend that played Marvel, and we'd go back and forth and kind of play with them. But anyway, man, this has me really wanting to do streams on just ads and comics. Anyway, I'm not really getting the sense just thumbing through this what exactly is going on with Nora Freeze. So I'm kind of curious about it. Unless this is her with this crazy like samurai getup or whatever. Is that Batgirl fighting Nora Freeze, or is that somebody else? Well, anyway, I'll have to actually read this at some point. God, we're never going to get through the Batgirl, folks. Plushie DX, there are so many interpretations of Freeze's wife, right? Okay, you guys ready? 71. It's still going. I mean, I could have just looked this up, but I've just been curious about it. Oh, and she's, maybe she did in the last issue too, and I just didn't notice it. But she has opened her face mask up, and she's got a more traditional Batgirl suit now. And it's still mostly black, which is cool. So, I mean, it's related to her old suit. But I love the covered up mouth. I always thought that was just a real cool, memorable look. Now, for some reason, this cover I remember. This might have been one of the only issues I had when I only had a few of these. And then maybe that's why I remember this issue. But that's 72. We'll quit when we're done with Batgirl here. Oh, we're nearly there. Okay. The end of Batgirl. Okay, so it ends on 73. Somewhat arbitrarily, it seems. Here lies Cassandra Cain. Of course, this series has to end with an issue that looks like she's dead. Because there are so many issues already that looks like she's dead. Okay, we'll get into the rest of Batgirl next time. We finished Cassandra Cain Batgirl. So I want to, and we're at an hour and a half. I want to call it a night right now. We're more than halfway through this box. So we'll probably get into the next box next time. Braden, I'm going to bed too, man. I'm right there with you. Thanks a lot for being here, everybody. I hope you enjoyed looking through a box of comics. And next week, we're going to come back and do more of looking through a box of comics. And in the meantime, I was Captain Logan. I'll be back tomorrow night, like I said, with a review of Alien Romulus. and I will be joined by Austin and Connor for that. And then, what else do you guys want to know about? Friday night, we're going to do the Superhero Rewind commentary for Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness. And we've got a Captain Logan show on Wednesday. And a request on a Tom King thing. I can't remember what it's called. Some creator-owned thing I hadn't heard of. I think it has the word street in it. I can't remember. But we're doing that on Thursday. Anyway, so lots of fun things coming your way. Thanks for watching. Thomas Lowe says, great stream. I appreciate it, man. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I mean, it's really just me looking up books to see if they're worth anything and showing you cool covers and shopping. But if you enjoy that, I'm glad you had fun. I will see you again real soon. I was Captain Logan. Good night, everybody.